Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to everyone present here in Facebook and YouTube Live. This is Rudranarayan Das. Take this privilege to warmly welcome you all to World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021 and 22. Invitation to global dialogue on agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social sciences and policy frames. An initiative towards think times and rethink episteme. Distinguished participants, partakers, it's a glorious moment to extend my warm welcome on behalf of the Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, as this conference is built with the intent of active and interactive learning and discussion, organized by Center for ADIVASI Research and Development in collaboration with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, Central University of Odisha, Koraput, and Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. On behalf of Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, I want to convey my heartfelt gratitude to our patrons, Professor Sanjay Kumar Naik, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Ravenshaw University, and Professor Mahadev Jaiswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, and Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha. The convener of this largest virtual conference, eminent Indian historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent policy activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Panigrahiji. Dear friends, the main outcome of this conference is to come up with national and international framework for the education system in future. The crux of this conference will be the use of digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and virtual reality that is being increasingly adopted after the outbreak of COVID pandemic. We hope this conference would help students, faculties, researchers, and all to expand their mental horizon and help the education system to adopt the best in future. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know that our Center for ADIVASI Research and Development is a leading research-oriented institution promoting ethnographic, empirical, and evidence-based research for engaging and addressing the challenges that 21st century globe is facing today. Dear friends, the prime agenda of this institution is to come up with potential policy solutions for social change while believing in the idea of debate, dialogue, discussion, and with expertise experiencing in education. The institution focuses on marginalized communities and works for their livelihood to protect the nature, culture, language, and identity in particular. Ladies and gentlemen, the age of modernity has witnessed that change is the only constant phenomena for societal purpose to enhance knowledge. Our information work for them is methodical and avoids paradoxically frameworks which is neglected so many centuries from theory to become practice. A card sincerely believes in the concept of social marketing, which is seriously looking for non-profiting marketing and builds new social entrepreneurship for check and balance mechanism to glorify generations to come. Center for ADIVASI Research and Development come to serve with the holistic approach of critical thinking in education and to fill the gaps and plan accordingly for the voiceless communities. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a tremendous contentment to introduce the most esteemed personality of today's symposia. Is none other than Dr. David Shumaker. Dr. David is an eminent technologist, futurist, explorer, and transhumanist. And also, he is a Cryonicist and ENFJ, Director of Applied Innovation for the US Transhumanist Party, United States of America. Professor David, Dr. David, we are very much glad to have you here. And the topic, as you suggested to speak on this particular forum, that is very important to discuss, and definitely your vision and as a transhumanist, your ideas will help our students, our audiences. Those three universities are tying off with us to find out the new way. And what is wrong? That as your topic is said about something is wrong, we people are trying to get what are the problems. We are talking about everything, but what we achieve in our future and in present. So your topic is, as suggested by you, something is wrong, which will definitely be an eye-opening session for all of us. With this note, I welcome you again and stop here and invite Dr. David to initiate his talk. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the kind introduction. And I have some slides to share. Let me start with that.
Yeah, please, sir. Please, sir.
All right, let me get those. Here we go. No, that's not it. Pardon me, here we are.
Yes, sir, it's visible, please.
Okay, excellent. Yes, thank you so much. So as in the introduction said, yes, I'm David Shumaker, and I am the Director of Applied Innovation for the United States Transhumanist Party. If you like, you can find out more about us at transhumanist-party.org, where you'll see that our emphasis is putting science, health, and technology at the forefront of politics. We look at politics differently than traditionally defined or conventionally defined. We look at policy rather than politics. We value initiatives and reforms that improve the human condition for as many people as possible with as much beneficial impact as possible. We seek to achieve the next greatest era of civilization, which will require constructive solutions to the problems of our current era. All of these problems can be solved if we look away from political trench warfare of today and towards a brighter future. So the full title of my talk today is, Why Do We Feel Something is Wrong? On the slide as well, you can see the reference to my personal blog site, davidshumaker.com, where I express opinions and offer possibilities on a number of different topics, and I'll be doing so on this one as well. Today, the talk that I give before you is my own thoughts and ideas. I encourage you to go check out transhumanist-party.org. Look at the values and the political platform that we have there to see specifically the ideas of the Transhumanist Party. Today, my focus here in this talk is on human and technology partnership. Let's look at an overview. Why do we feel something is wrong? I'll present my claim and my promise. We will look at, has something always been wrong? Has the feeling been accelerating over the past 50 or so years? What factors are generating this feeling of wrongness? We will look at acceleration and exacerbation, and we will look at probable causes. We will discover the root cause and what are plausible vectors. And we will continue with a way forward towards something is right. Here is my claim. My claim is there exists a prevailing feeling among many people that something is wrong. This feeling of knowing is evident in North America, Europe, and many other countries. This condition is not a sudden occurrence, yet the rate of increase appears to be accelerating. There are identifiable factors that may generate, accelerate, and exacerbate the feeling of wrongness. And my promise, I will offer possibilities for the cause, plausible vectors, and a way forward towards something is right. Some might say that humanity has always felt something is wrong at some level. History is replete with examples of humans improving their condition. For example, taming fire lit the night, warded off predators, cooked food, and eventually forged metals. The wheel, movable type on a printing press, steam power, electric lights, and a myriad of examples prove the point. The point is, something was wrong and humans found a solution. There was a long period between major innovations, allowing gradual integration into everyday experience. Suppose there is a prevailing feeling that something is wrong. Question: what could be the cause of a lack? What could be a cause? Could it be the lack of solutions or insufficient integration? Where is this feeling of wrong occurring? COVID-19 is worldwide. Supply chain issues resulting from the COVID-19 measures and disruptions from the Russo-Ukraine war are felt worldwide. Furthermore, there is a threat of a larger war that results in employing nuclear weapons with worldwide consequences. In 2018, an author writing for Psychology Today replied, yes, to whether there is an epidemic of anxiety. Dr. Davies states that there has always been anxiety, yet this period in time brings new stressors, and this was in 2018. New modern stressors plus multiple worldwide dangers point to a feeling that something is wrong everywhere. The feeling varies in depth based upon the awareness of dangers and the influence on daily living. What are the new modern stressors? The worldwide dangers previously mentioned do qualify as modern stressors. Moreover, the magnitude of the stressors certainly raises anxiety levels. Question: however, what may be causing the anxiety levels to rise so fast, perhaps exponentially? The previously mentioned Psychology Today article points to 24-hour connectivity, perpetual connectivity, multitasking work and non-work activities, graphic and disturbing news, alerts, and doomsday scenarios. Also, the modern threats of identity theft and other online ills. And of course, there are social media and its much talked about impact on ourselves, companies, government, politics, and religion. The previously mentioned factors point the finger at technology. Let us examine that idea. Fire may have been humanity's first major technology. Technology is evolutionary and expands exponentially. Renowned inventor and Google's director of engineering, Ray Kurzweil, explains this as the law of accelerating returns. Each generation of technology builds on the previous generation, yielding greater and greater returns. In the case of fire, tools became necessary to control fire. The Stone Age's improvements in tools birthed the Bronze Age. The Stone Age lasted roughly 2.5 million years and ended 5,000 years ago. Many would agree that technological process has quickened over the last 5,000 years. Consider the Popular Mechanics article from March 20, 2020, titled "The Best Innovations the Past 66 Years Has Given Us." The article shows one major technical innovation for every year since the 1950s. It begins with the microwave oven, at that time, the size of a large refrigerator, and ends with electric vehicles. Our ever-present desire to improve is demonstrating accelerating returns. The picture on the right-hand side of the slide is the first step in what became the internet. In 1969, 4 independent network nodes situated at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, Stanford Research Institute, the University of California, Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah were connected by packet switching technology, and this gave birth to today's internet. Acceleration and exacerbation. Technology builds on technology. Fire fundamentally changed human society. Sunset was no longer the end of the day. A nighttime security fire requires planning resources. Cooked meats can stay edible longer than raw. Improved tools, improved lighting, security, food preparation, and storage, and created even better tools. And the cycle continues faster and faster. Oxford Languages defines exacerbation as the process of making a problem, bad situation, or negative feeling worse. Technological improvement is accelerating, presumably bettering conditions for humanity. Question: what could be the process making a perceived problem, situation, or feeling worse? Cause probabilities. Improvement changes what was wrong to something more right, while changing everything else around it as well. When the time between significant changes is long, there is ample time for humans to adapt. Moreover, a long interval between changes is what we expect to see at the beginning of a graph of an exponential function. The period between data points decreases as the exponential function continues and the graph line rises. Humanity has numerous solutions coming online and less time to integrate these solutions into daily living. Therefore, intuitively, we might understand that reduced integration time is a stressor. Root cause. Consider an article in MIT Technology Review that states that the human's brain processing is only about 60 bits per second. This is slow information processing compared to computers and digital communication speed. Perhaps humans need faster processing speed to adapt to the reduced integration time that technology acceleration brings. Human evolution has resulted in bodies that rapidly adapt to environmental conditions, which has allowed us to inhabit most of our planet. How long would it take if the evolutionary process increased our slow mental processing speed? Most sources indicate this would take a long time. According to research done at Oregon State University, lasting evolutionary change takes about 1 million years. Root cause: inadequate speed to process and integrate rapidly accelerating change. Plausible vectors. As previously stated, humans want to improve their conditions. So what are some plausible vectors, meaning speed and direction, that humans might follow? Let us consider two. The first one, we can limit technological speed of improvement to human adaptation speed. This solution has a high opportunity cost. The currency of this cost is unnecessary suffering for humans and all life on the planet. Suppose in 1 million years, humans could psychologically adapt at the speed of accelerating technological improvement. In that case, we are imposing 1 million years of lost opportunity to reduce or eliminate suffering. Now, there are advantages to this possibility. We might feel that it's more low risk, and we might feel that we are more in control, or as some would say, slow and steady. Or, number two, we can increase the speed of humans to adapt to be on par with technological improvement speed. This solution would align with what humans have always done to find a way to improve things. However, is this a feasible solution? Narrow artificial intelligence, AI, is a tool for image recognition, chatbots, self-driving cars, and recommendation engines. However, the human to AI integration is a challenge. Our current interfaces are through external devices, which result in slow interchanges of information. As a result, the human AI interface must be improved. Excuse me. As AI becomes more generalized and perhaps reaches the level of superintelligence, then possibly AI can carry most of the load. For example, AI could provide humans with only the details they need to facilitate the processing and integration. This is essentially AI wrapped around a human bubble. The approach might be analogous to representative democracy, where elected officials make decisions for their constituents. The constituents re-elect the representatives or not based on the constituents' perceived performance of the representative. Here, AI would make informed and speedy decisions. The humans periodically grade the AI's performance, where perceived negative performance drive changes to AI's daily duties. But perhaps there might be a third option. Another alternative is for the best aspects of humans and the best aspects of AI to merge. Neuralink or something like it may be the interface. Perhaps this approach could bypass the slow human cognitive speed limit and allow times for humans to process and integrate as fast as the technology. A way forward towards something is right. Humanity must have a way forward that feels right. No decision, no action ensures more accelerating levels of anxiety and the adverse effects that result. Limiting innovation to human speed is not a solution without severe consequences. Some might say that for Max More. People's freedom to innovate technologically is highly valuable, even critical to humanity. This implies several imperatives when restrictive measures are proposed. Assess risks and opportunities according to available science, not popular perception. Account for both the cost of the restrictions themselves and those of opportunities foregone. Favor measures that are proportionate to the probability and magnitude of impacts that have a high expectation value. Protect people's freedom to experiment, innovate, and progress. Thank you, Max, for those words. The proactionary principles weighs risk versus rewards, or taking action versus slow or inaction. Therefore, I propose employing the proactionary principle in choosing a path forward. Human negativity bias is our wired evolutionary tendency to give negative experiences greater weight than positive ones. Scientific studies bear this out, as do our own subjective experiences. Therefore, as we weigh alternative paths to mitigate our lack of capacity to implement accelerating change, we must remain constantly aware of our bias towards negativity and not to overvalue perceived negative consequences. In conclusion, there is a prevalent feeling that something is wrong, and the intensity is accelerating. Please consider the generating and exacerbating factors. Contemplate the root cause and plausible vectors. Perhaps there's only one path to choose, or multiple paths coexisting. Whatever path or paths are implemented, we will require that humans can keep up with the ever-increasing rate of change. Otherwise, AI leaves humans behind. Alternatively, human-paced improvement moves too slowly to manage the risks that lead to extinction, just like the Earth's dominant species before humanity. These are the references from my paper and what I've quoted in this presentation. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration of my claim and my promise, and I am happy to take questions as we have time.
Thank you so much, Professor David, for your wonderful deliberation. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Shravan back if he has any query, and go for a small remark over Professor David's talk.
Thank you, Dr. Rudra. So, hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Okay. So, first of all, let me to take this opportunity to convey my deep sense of thanks and gratitude to Professor David for really putting things in a very crisp and very clear manner. First of all, for that, I would definitely like to congratulate him. And I'm sure that the audience must have been very much benefited from this, presentation. Now, very quickly, I would just take maybe one question to David. As you have rightly said that, over the period of time, we all have witnessed how change has taken place, and the whole civilization has been affected with this change, which is of course a process, a continuous process. But my point is that the way technology has now entered to the different aspects of our life, do you find that at some point of time this is going to be a sort of problem in the days to come, because more or less we are now being so much controlled and being boosted by technology that the real flavor of human life has somewhere been lost? So how do you see that? I mean, just fitting into the title, like something is wrong, as we have said. So do you think that technology at some point of time is again going to be a sort of burden on our life rather than becoming a boon?
Thank you for that question. I think that gets right to the heart of exactly what I'm talking about. So I appreciate that question very much. So let me preface my answer by saying that technology is human. And what I mean by that is we as humans have always, we may not have called it technology, but we have always looked for ways to solve our problems. So technology is something that I think is a normal emergent activity of humans. Now, not every decision that we as humans make is beneficial for ourselves and for those around us. And much like evolutionary pressures on the biological, which keep the biological traits that are beneficial for moving forward, I see technology that way too. We will have technologies that are not beneficial, just like we develop physical traits over long periods of time that are not beneficial. But evolution doesn't select for that. It selects for those that perpetuate the species. So we as humans intuitively select for technologies that benefit the species, sometimes better than others. Neither of these are perfect processes. So to get to your question, the amount of technology or the specific technologies are up to us to decide what to keep and what to discard. I used fire as an example because it is an extremely important building block in civilization. Fire did all those things that I mentioned in my talk. And I mentioned positive things: lighting the night, providing us heat, cooking our food, warding off animals. But of course, fire burnt you if you got too close. And if you had a structure that was too close to the fire, it could burn that. So the same fire that could bring all those benefits could also bring destruction. Humans then needed to develop tools to manage that fire, and we kept the tools that were useful. And we kept the aspects of fire that were useful, ever mindful of keeping an eye on what is not useful from fire. Now, today, the technologies could be argued are much more powerful than that, whether it be in energy, whether it be in intelligence, in whatever level it might be in. So we as humans need to manage that. We need to use our humanity to decide what we keep and what we don't use. And I think that naturally happens over time. It's not painless, and it's not pretty sometimes, and it's not smooth, but it is how things progress. So we have stressors, and those stressors do come in part from technology. As we talked about, an ever-impending war in Europe, which could lead to a nuclear interchange. I'm not saying that it will, obviously, but I'm just saying there's a threat. That nuclear technology is a technology that humans have kept, and perhaps I would like to see it used more for energy generation, a number of other uses. Just like fire, it has good and bad aspects to it. So it's up to us to utilize our humanity and to select for what serves humanity. Was that responsive to your question?
So David, just can I make one more submission? Like,
please.
So what I take from your presentation and this summarization is that, I mean, I may be wrong, just a sort of reflection from my side. As long as we take control of technology, things are okay. But the moment technology start taking control of human lives, then we can say that something is wrong. Am I correct?
Well, I don't see it quite that way, but I do understand your point. At least I think I do. So the feeling of control was addressed in one slide. We could limit technological progress to the speed that we as humans as we think and act today can shepherd, can move, lead the technology forward. And that has the advantage of being slow and having our hands steadily on the controls. I think personally, I think that's too slow, but that may be an answer, or at least an answer for certain technologies. What I tend to favor personally, though, is more that we need to establish technology that works for us, that can operate faster than us, and we can find a way to manage that capability that's working faster than us. So I gave an example in the talk about as artificial intelligence becomes more generalized and can move at the speed of electronics, that we use the analogy of democratic government, one option, to manage this greater speed and capacity that what we have. We have to have done our job well, to select well in artificial intelligence, for it to be able to make decisions faster than we can accommodate. And then we need a way to be able to look at those, perhaps by group, category, what's most important to us at appropriate intervals that work for human speed, and then be able to provide feedback back to the automatic mechanisms that are working faster than us. That's really not a new idea. Modern aircraft, even modern cars, do lots of things for us while we pilot or drive them. And over time, we become comfortable with those things happening. Now, true, what I'm talking about here with artificial intelligence is magnitudes greater than that. But I think we have it within our capacity as humans to be able to find a way to be able to interface the greater capabilities of artificial intelligence, either through external devices, something that will, or devices that will somehow allow us to be able to interact faster with artificial intelligence. But you're absolutely right. We don't feel comfortable on things that we don't control until we gain a confidence with them, and we need to go through that process. So from a manner of speaking, we don't allow technology to overtake us if we find ways to integrate with us, if we find ways to integrate with it at those faster speeds. And that really becomes the challenge. I think we are at the very beginning of tools that can help us do that. I mentioned Neuralink as one, but there can be other things that we have not thought of. And that's why the proactionary principle that Dr. Max Moore I quoted is so important. We need to be, as humans, available to innovate consistently as we move forward so that we don't lose the opportunity of being able to take advantage of these better and better technologies. But it does go back to us to decide what is better. Does that help?
That's nice. That's so nice. Thank you so much, David, for putting my response very clear. Really, it was indeed a very pleasure hearing you. And I mean, this may be a very out of the box kind of request. I was just going through your profile, and I could see that you have a lot of experience at different sectors. So probably if you could elaborate a couple of things on the way you function, so that would be more grateful for the audience. Like I was just going through the profile, like you are a futurist and you do explore things like this. So I mean, since we don't have that knowledge or information about this scope of the work that you basically do, so probably that will also help us out in relating to the topic that something is wrong, right? So if you could wish.
Certainly, I'd be happy to. So during my formative
you,
years,
Dr. Bag. Yeah, please get it.
okay, thank you. So during my formative years, excuse me, I became very interested in the space program that the United States was doing, and the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union started with Sputnik, the Russian satellite, and then moved on with first person in space. And then the race was on for a matter of national pride and other reasons. But I became very, very interested in this technology and I think the idea of opening to the idea that we can do things that humans have never done before. Today, we have an International Space Station that's had continuous human occupation for the last 20 years. But when I was a young boy, no one had been into space. So we were looking at being able to do something that maybe had been dreamed about by prior generations, but we were at a period in time where we could do something that hadn't been done before. So not only did we put people in space, but we took people to our nearest celestial body, the moon, and we did that on repeated space missions. That started my whole interest in futurism, because I realized that even though I enjoyed reading fictional books about the future, we could do things that had never done before. We could do things that could have been thought to be fictional. And I continued to carry that forward with me. I got very interested in undersea exploration and what the future of undersea might be. I got very interested in what I thought was the dominant technology at the time, which was electronics. And I didn't come from an affluent family. I needed a job, I needed to learn skills, and I decided to do that by joining the US Air Force, which was willing to train me in electronics. And I greatly benefited from that. And I did that job for quite a few years, and electronics grew into computerization. And eventually, by the time that I finished my military career, I was experienced in both and leadership abilities and was able to move into the private sector, once again working on technologies that were very new. We take computers for granted these days, but I remember my first computer courses and nobody foresaw what was coming. Some of us saw possibility. It seems like I always have. I guess that's the futurist part of me. And I looked forward to what might be, and I applied myself to that. And that paid off very well for a civilian career following my military career. I'm talking about these things because they all drive from my basic need to see being able to do something in the future we have not done before, and to be able to do it well, not without setbacks, not without problems and complications, but to be able to do it well enough to drive it forward to benefit more. So today, I still look forward to space. I look forward to the Artemis missions to the moon. I look forward to Elon Musk's intended work at taking humans to Mars. I look at the possibility of asteroid mining. I look at the possibility of extending human life. I have already outlived most of the males in my family over the years, primarily for new modern medications, which would have been seen as magic generations ago. So I'm optimistic about the future, but I'm also a realist, seeing what issues that can be there. So this is some of my background. This is why I consider myself a futurist. My background is in technology and as a technologist. And this is why that I've aligned myself with transhumanism in the Transhumanist Party, other transhumanist organizations, or any organization that promotes science and technology, especially in areas that relate to things that sincerely, in my opinion, benefit human society for as many people as possible with the greatest benefit. And I believe that also then helps benefit the world at large. So that's why I'm driven in those directions. That's why I speak as often as I can at organizations like yours and others, hoping to give some thought of what we can do for the future, how we can manage our negativity bias that evolution selected for because it helped us move cautiously through many, many dangers. But we need to not let it overpower us while we rationally look for benefits to humanity and decide on what we need to discard that are not benefits to humanity and the planet. And at some point, more than one planet. So that's how I'm driven to go forward. So I hope that answers your question about my background and why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
Yes, David. It was really very nice and very exciting to see your journey. And I'm sure that like me, others must have been very much interested and very much satisfied with the passion with which you are working. And of course, I definitely take this opportunity once again to congratulate you and my all best wishes for your future endeavor. It was really very heartening and very pleasant and worthy to listen to you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now over to Dr. Rudra.
Thank you, Dr. Bag, for a wonderful conversation with David. There is a question in the chat box. The question is for Dr. David. That it is perhaps rightly predicted that artificial intelligence could erase many practical advantages of democracy and erode the ideals of liberty and equality as well. It will further concentrate power among the small elite if you don't take steps to stop it or think seriously on it. So do you have any idea to overcome such crisis in liberal democracy?
I do have some ideas, and I think this is a very important point. Thank you for raising this. As in the past, as we've seen with different technologies, the benefit of those go to the top of society, as you will, as you call the elite. And I can think of many, many examples. One of them would be cell phones, smartphones, as they've turned out to be. I remember how costly they were. And I also remember their predecessors, mobile phones that were built into cars, and that became a status symbol for people that had such a thing because it wasn't something that the common person had. Far too expensive. Of course, fast forward to today, smartphones are everywhere in every country and in most social economic levels. But the process going from the elite having those very, very early cumbersome phones with limited networks to what we have today, especially with the connection of internet and so forth, quite a different change. So why did that happen? And why does that give me hope in the questions that you raise? So when you go back to those very early cell phones, they required a lot of power. There was not much economy of scale. They were very few built because there were very few buyers at that price point. The network to be able to use them was concentrated in major cities, and that was about it. So it was very limited functionality. To gain a better network, to gain better economy of scale for being able to sell the end devices, the cell phone, and to be able to have economy of scale for all the interconnecting technology required a much broader audience. So I think this pressure from elites to have better service for themselves actually benefits the rest of us to some degree, to a great degree, actually. Because now I live in the US state of Arizona. I live in its major population area, Phoenix. But when I drive out of Phoenix through very small towns in the mountains, I have continuous cell phone coverage. And the only way that the elite would have had that continuous cell phone coverage would be by having this technology proliferate, to be able having it open to others so that they too can use that. And the technology works much better. The first cell phones didn't do much more than what a two-way radio would do, other than you could connect to landline telephones. Today, I can connect with my cell phone through smart apps and whatever to pretty much anywhere in the world. I have friends, family in New Zealand, for example, and we chat regularly. I have friends in Europe and we can chat regularly. And as an outgrowth of that cell phone service is the internet, which is tied into all modern phones. And the internet is what allows us to be able to have this conversation today. And we saw that that started on one of my slides back in 1969, tying 4 research universities together with packet switching technology. And it birthed the internet. But why did that happen? Because to gain the breadth that it needed to have also wide adoption. So do we have as much influence at the consumer level as the elites had for steering the technology? That could be debatable, but we certainly have a voice at the table. And that voice is not only in our speaking, but also in the money that we spend. Where do we spend? What technologies does our money select for, if you will, to use an evolutionary term, to drive that technology forward? So this comes back to my theme that it's us as individuals exercising our humanity that drives technology in the direction that we want it to go. But we have to take responsibility for our actions. One of the things that we have today with technology that we didn't have with cell phones is narrow artificial intelligence. And narrow artificial intelligence is used in, well, pretty much everywhere these days, maybe more. As I dig into it, I find it behind many more things than I thought that it would be. But clear examples would be the algorithms that are in social media, for example, which can be, some say, used to change public thought. But public thought only gets changed one person at a time. So it's up to me, it's up to you, it's up to everyone to take control of what's presented to us and to exercise our rational human capabilities to be able to select for what serves us and what really doesn't serve us. Once again, that's not easy. It's not necessarily pretty, and it's not necessarily painless. But if we as humans continue to exercise our humanity, then our humanity with technology will coexist and we'll be better off for it. Does that get to the heart of your question?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the wonderful answer. One of the last and very important question in my point of view, sir. So my question is, how do you look such types of religious issues that, for example, the Palestine issues and the fundamentalism in Afghanistan, and such kind of the war issues like Ukraine, and all the international issues, those are very inhuman in this 21st century. What are the causes, and why people are trying to fight with each other because of such in such not very important issues? Issues are very important on the specific ground, like climate and environment is a very important issues, clean water and education. These major issues are not addressed by the society, not addressed by the big powers, variably by the big powers. And why they are sponsoring such type of problems, and religious and kind of indiscipline activities are running over the earth. What is your views on it?
Yeah, another very important point. I really enjoy these questions. These questions are really right on topic and very important ones to answer. So I think maybe the best way for me to address this is say that whether it's religion, whether it's ideology, whether it's lack of voice. I'm trying to think of all the different things, but they really come down to the heart of my talk. These people feel, and perhaps rightly so, that something is wrong. So let me give you an example that for me is personal. We mentioned religion. So everyone that's a futurist is not necessarily religious. And sometimes these terms, unfortunately, carry baggage when you say religion. So I'm going to use them in their most generic terms. So from a religious standpoint, I myself am religious. So I consider myself a Christian, and I consider myself a transhumanist. And there is an organization here in the United States and online that is the Christian Transhumanist Association. There are other religions that are involved in this as well. And those organizations are looking for a voice in the future. Perhaps, and like in my case, I'm interested in a peaceful, rational way forward in the future to integrate the values that come from my religious background into selecting for technologies for the future. But I think your question really has to do with those that are more centered perhaps on taking matters into their hands through violence. You mentioned a couple of places that I brought that to mind. And it's because I believe they feel that there is a threat, there is something that's wrong, and it's wrong in its most dire states. And unfortunately, answering those threats with violence has been what some have chosen. I think it's up to the rest of us to find ways to be able to have people talk, to have people share and appreciate ideas for other cultures. I've been fortunate that I didn't speak of this in my past when asked, but from an early age, I lived outside the United States, and I've lived across and worked across almost all 50 states. And then in my adult life as well, I've also lived and worked outside the United States. And those have been very beneficial in me learning to value and appreciate other cultures. So as we can take into account all the cultures, make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, if you will, and can feel that their essential culture, what makes that culture distinct, can go forward, not at the expense of another culture or the other culture taking an expense at that. That really is a way of being able to integrate the changes that I talk about and being able to have a rational discussion and not being able and not giving into violent aspects that come about. Those are desperate behaviors. We want to eliminate that. I think talks like this really help. And as I researched a bit about what CART does, I see that you're doing that for a community of people inside India. And for that, I'm offer you great applaud for doing that. Their culture needs to be maintained, yet the culture needs to move forward into the 21st century to be able to take advantages of the benefits, but not only for them to be able to take advantages, but for the rest of us to be able to take the benefits of what that culture can bring to the table. The richer the number of cultures are that are coming together that find a positive way to interact going forward, the better off we all are. Shutting off any particular culture, religion, ideology that peacefully wants to move forward, shutting any of those off hurts the rest of us. And we need to realize that. We need all of us. We need the diversity. We need the diversity among religions, which has not historically been good, but I believe can be very good going forward. And I am fully behind that and think that that type of discussion that's inclusive is best for the planet in the long run. And we need to figure that out as we take our common cultures that people don't feel are in threat and move outward to the moon and other planets and wherever we might go so that we don't take bad behavior with us. I hope that helps.
Thank you, David, for a wonderful answer. Definitely, in 21st century, we need another renaissance. Another renaissance in the sector of, particularly in the sector of humankind or mankind. These are very important issues that discussed in today's symposium. Thank you so much for joining us with from United States. And we are very much glad to have you in our conference. And thank you so much for your wonderful time and discussion. It will be very helpful for our students and our audiences. Now let me conclude this meeting with thanking all our partner institutions, Ravenshaw University, Central University of Odisha, and Indian Institute of Management for their relentless support. Thank you so much, Dr. Vikram Kesri Jena, the Director, Center for ADIVASI Research and Development, who is not with us because of some problem. He's not with us today. Otherwise, definitely the program will be more half an hour because Dr. Jena is very much curious to exchange some word with Dr. David. So unfortunately, he's not with us because of some urgent work. So thank you, Dr. Jena, for providing such a wonderful human being to interact with our audiences. Thank you so much, Dr. Jena, and thank you all our committee members of Center for ADIVASI Research and Development for their wonderful efforts to organizing such kind of international conferences. And thank you, Dr. Shravan Bhatt, for the wonderful remark and conversation with Dr. David. And thank you all our team members, our media supervisor, our broadcasting department head for the wonderful cooperation and help. Thank you so much. And thank you again, once again, David ji, for accepting our invitations and sharing your wonderful ideas with us. Thank you so much. Meeting is concluded.
Thank you for having me.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.